Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got 5 ridiculously cool knives that you definitely don't want to miss. A lot of the stuff you're going to see today is actually going to come before my scheduled unboxings, which is confusing, but yeah, you're going to see some stuff ahead of time. This is my way of getting this stuff out to you guys just a little bit faster while still doing my unboxing videos down the road. Thanks so much to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Some of today's items are available and some of them are not. I will link what I can in the description. Today's list includes a lot of expensive stuff, which is why we're going to start off with something very inexpensive. This is the new Civi Plidploid? It's probably a common word and I just don't know how to pronounce it. This is G10 and 14T28N, but wait, it's shred G10. I love this material that Civi is working with. It's all the benefits of G10. It just looks a little bit fancier. This guy's going to come in at $53, making it really impressive at that price point, especially considering it's a full-size knife. This does not feel dainty. It does not feel cheap. It's Civi and we proving that they can bring something really spectacular to the table, even when you're on a budget. This will make a really good tool. It's very easy to manipulate. It's awesome if you like a thumb stud knife that also, has a flipper as an option. It's just really neat. It doesn't go too far out of the parameters of normal knife, but just enough to make it a little bit fun, right? Just not the same boring old, do you want black? Do you want OD green? Do you want coyote? It's G10 and it's whatever, flavor of budget steel, and there you go. No, it's got something a little bit extra going on here, and I really like it. Hope to see more of this kind of frosted over window look from Civi with their G10. I think it's awesome. Moving on here to something wildly expensive and definitely going to cater more to the collectors and enthusiasts of the community, and that's the new Hawk Talon. Yeah, Hawk Tua, haha, funny. That's still funny. That's the funniest joke ever. Brain rot. Oh my God. Every time I say Hawk anything, there's some spaghetti brained moron who's just like standing there with his thumbs in his butt screaming Hawk Tua at the sky. Let it die, please. The Hawk Talon is a very cool knife, and definitely a custom, a US custom that's going to be in incredibly high demand, right? Now, these are going to, and I know, get your pitchforks and torches ready. This is going to be a $950 knife, but for those of you who are familiar with Hawk, then you'll understand why. This is a small batch. This is a true US custom knife. But it is really impressive, and it has that awesome Hawk toggle detent. I am such a fan of this. I was a big fan of the Rook. This is a much more knife-shaped knife than the Rook. So if you like the idea of the Rook with that Hawk toggle detent, which is not utilizing Omega springs, if you didn't like the look of that, you might really like the look of this. This feels incredible and has absolutely ridiculously solid lockup, and will make an excellent tool if you actually decide to use it, though I doubt we'll see much of that. There'll be a few different scale options for this guy, but a really nice thin hollow cutting edge and just a really beautiful overall look. It's also really comfortable. I am definitely going to be picking one of these up. Just understand, if you do intend to pick one of these up, the window will probably be small, and they will absolutely 100% sell out, as is usually the case with Hawk stuff. So just be ready and check out the Hawk website and the Hawk Instagram so that you're ready to go when these are available. Moving on to something far less expensive, but still definitely expensive, and something that's definitely going to be on a lot of people's radar. This is the new WESNX Tyro with the super lock. Undoubtedly the knife that I used in the thumbnail. We have not seen a new super lock knife from WESNX for a bit. This new Tyro is definitely going to make a lot of people happy. I was under the impression that this was, like, when I measured this during the unboxing, which you guys will see in the future, that actually occurred in the past because of how I schedule this channel. I know, again, confusing. Yeah, I was very confused at the size. it does not feel small and dainty, but it actually is on the smaller side. There's a substantial amount of titanium here. And then we have, of course, a 20 CV blade, I think you see right there. But it just doesn't feel as small as it is. And it is beautifully easy to manipulate without having to worry about the the super lock coming out of there like it did in the Vision R. Now, you guys know how I feel about the Vision FG. I think it's one of the best dollar for dollar knives in existence. I love the super lock and it works really well. This is a really interesting way to implement this locking system, and it's going to work well for a lot of people. I think they definitely need to do a bigger one. This isn't necessarily too small for me. I can still get a full 4-finger grip. I don't love this back end back here, but I think that some people will, especially if they like a compact knife. But making a larger one at about 8 1/4 would make a ton of people happy. As it sits though, this is very cool, and you can now enjoy the super lock without having to have that weird spine pocket clip thing that they did with the Vision R. I'm actually really impressed with this. I think one of my favorite things about it is, despite it being a WE knife and it including titanium and 20 CV, it's really not coming in nearly as expensive as some of WE's other products. I think where you're going to see retail on this guy is about $229, and they drop on November 18th. As far as I know, they are available for pre-order right now on Blade HQ's site, but I have a feeling that they are going to sell out of these. The Super Lock is definitely one of those locking systems that's very, very popular right now, mainly because it is very easy to manipulate. It is ambidextrous, and most importantly, it is superior in terms of lockup strength to the vast majority of locking systems that we have on the market right now. So if you like the idea of picking up something nice, but you're worried that it's not going to stand up to what you're going to use it for, something like this might be the way to go. If you don't want to spend the money on this, I would highly recommend the Vision FG because it's the same idea, but way less expensive. I'm also hoping that they do something like this in the budget territory. Basically anything that WESNX does with the actual super lock is, I'm going to have my eye on it. I think this is really cool. Some people are going to like the little triangles and some people won't, but I think they did a really good job with this, especially with keeping the price down versus a lot of their other stuff that's been landing at the $300 territory nowadays. Moving on to something that is, once again, substantially more expensive, but very, very impressive. This is the new Artis Caruso. This is ridiculous. Now, I know that Artisan Cutlery has been doing full Damascus knives, in some cases even mirror polishing, but this is legitimately full, as in solid titanium Damascus and sand polished S90V, properly heat treated at 59 to 61. This is insane. Now, if you don't care about Damascus, this is going to mean nothing to you. If you do like Damascus and or are familiar with exactly how pricey this stuff is, then this will be kind of amazing, right? Now, Artisan Cutlery is a Chinese company. They're not the only Chinese company utilizing Damascus on some of their knives, but they've done some of the best work out there for the money. It usually is inlay work, and when it is, full Damascus, it tends to be on the smaller side. This is not a small knife. These are massive, massive slabs of titanium Damascus. You can see all the layers in there. Very beautiful. Big, thick slabs of this stuff. This knife actually comes in. It'd probably be handy if I could actually measure it for you guys. But it's actually nearing I think it's 8.5 inches to 9 inches. Here we go. The actual measuring tape, just out of reach. Closer to 8.5 inches at about 8.35 with almost a 3.6 inch blade and almost a 3.5 inch cutting edge. Really, really spectacular and not small at all. Very easy to manipulate. Nice, large button head thumb studs, very similar to what we see on the Ontario Rat 1, which I love. I love the thumb studs on this guy. This is one of the least expensive full Damascus knives that I have ever seen, especially when you're considering the fact that it is a full-size knife over 8 inches. Again, the price is going to shock some people and be amazing to other people, for a totally different reason. This guy comes in at $609 for the full Damascus version. You can get a plain titanium version for a little over $200, but if you're into Damascus and you're like, oh, I'd love to own a Damascus knife, but they all tend to be like well over $1,000 or multiple thousands of dollars, right? Even when we're looking at companies that are producing knives in China and are implementing Damascus or zirconium in their knives, they tend to be substantially more expensive, right? So if the materials don't mean anything to you, go with the titanium one. But if you're actually counting, right, dollar for dollar and comparing with everything else that's ever been on the market, I have never seen another knife this size, full Timascus scales, not inlays, full Timascus scales, and a combination with a blade steel like S90V for that low of a price. Everything else on the market that is legitimately the same thing or real competition is substantially more money. That's pretty amazing. I'm honestly really impressed, especially considering these are polished. Like, this is a beautiful polishing that they've done on this knife. Very comfortable. You also get a Timascus pocket clip. It's just really neat. I'm glad that there are options for people who want some of this fancy stuff to get it for less than $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000, right? A big part of that is the fact that these are made in China, but yeah, you can actually get it, and Artisan Cutlery is doing a really, really good job. So check this out, or the less expensive titanium version. And then last but certainly not least, a knife that I have talked about before and even shown in short form content, but we're going to look at it again in case you haven't seen it. This is Midgard's Messer's newest weird thing. If you're not familiar with Midgard's Messer and you're wondering what on earth kind of company is this, Midgard's Messer likes to make ridiculous things. They like to make ridiculous things on purpose, not because they don't know how to make a good folding knife, but because the idea of a plain Jane utilitarian folder is just not really interesting to these guys. They like to make wild and crazy stuff, and this is certainly one of those things. This is called the Midgard's Messer sliding knife, and it is currently a prototype. I realize that that is a bad name, and it will almost certainly change when they put this thing into production, assuming that they do. So why is it called the sliding knife? Because it slides, right? Well, that's lame. It's just going to slide back out of place. It locks. You can see right here, it's actually kind of a liner, almost a compression lock situation. We've got the little tooth back there that slides into place behind the tang. So not only does it lock, but it locks up pretty darn solid, right? What is the point of this? Well, again, you have to look at Midgard's Messer knives with sort of childlike humor. It's not that their goal is creating something perfectly practical. They're just creating weird things for the sake of creating weird things. The idea, not that it's perfectly executed here or in the most practical sense, but the idea here is that the design allows for the blade to fold up in a more compact way than it would if the pivot, like relative to its position on the blade, right? Like if this folded into the handle, the thing would be like this tall, right? So you end up with a blade that has that height, and that, I guess, you know, if it were perfectly executed, would have much better slicing geometry and wouldn't be, you know, a 1/4 inch thick. But the idea is kind of interesting. So you're allowing yourself to get that blade height, shifting the position of the pivot relative to the blade so that it folds up and becomes more compact than it would be otherwise. The irony is that it is still an absolute brick. Like, they didn't actually solve anything. But I think that's part of the humor in it. I honestly think when they design these things, they're like, let's toss some irony in, right? And let's just mess with everybody. And the people who get it laugh, and the people who don't, you know, have to critique it. But it is just as fun, if not even more fun, than, you know, a lot of the Midgard's Messer products that I've handled. This right here is so satisfying. And that lock, you know, that locking sound that you're hearing is exactly that. It is quite literally the lock sliding into place the moment that this slides all the way down. You can see it right there. Now, this is a prototype, so I would imagine that that process will be much smoother in a production version. And also, it's a little bit scary to slide it back. I haven't decided if I like to pull on the blade or push right here. I think it's much safer to just do this. It is much easier to slide if you hold the lock bar out of the way, but no part of this is comfortable. It's a bit awkward, and it's certainly not a movement that I would normally expect of a folding knife, so it feels, you know, super foreign to me. But it is really fun. It's such a weird, silly idea, and, you know, I don't know about you, but I feel like we got enough normal practical knives. The last time I counted, we had 14 bajillion regular practical knives to choose from. So stuff like this is substantially more welcome, you know, just for, if nothing else, just for entertainment. So yeah, really, really cool. No idea when this comes out. No idea what it'll be priced at. It will definitely be expensive. I would guess multiple hundreds of dollars, but you'll want to check out Tools for Gents and their Midgard's Messer page for when this actually drops. So again, we have the awkwardly named but appropriately named sliding knife prototype from Midgard's Messer. We have the full-time Damascus version of the Artisan Cutlery Caruso. We have the WESNX Tyro. I think definitely one of the most interesting things to come out in the last quarter of this year. We have the new Hawk Talon, which I cannot wait to add to my own personal collection, despite the dent it will put in my bank account. And then last but not least, we have the knife that I cannot pronounce, the Placoid, I have no idea, but it's definitely a good deal at $53 when it drops alongside the Tyro and some other new products from We and Civi on November 18th. All of this stuff, if I can, will be linked down in the description, or at least where you can go to watch for it when they drop. But that's all I've got for you guys today. Hopefully you found something that you liked, or at the very least entertained. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do of course have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.